Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to your Giants News Roundup for Monday, March 28th. I'm Ed Valentine of Big Blue View here on YouTube. Please remember, like and subscribe to our channel to support our work. If you like what we do, a few news items to discuss today. Coming out of John Mara speaking to media on Sunday evening at the NFL league meetings. First is Mara's statement that the Brian Flores allegations in the lawsuit against the Giants and other teams is false, and that the Giants will not settle that lawsuit, that they will continue to fight it. I don't know exactly what went on behind closed doors. I don't know what the timeline was. I don't want to speak to anyone's guilt or innocence here, but I can certainly see John Mara, being upset in this situation. I think that John Mara, when the process started, John Mara would have hired Brian Flores to be the Giants head coach, but he hired Joe Schoen first as the general manager. When Joe Schoen from the Buffalo Bills was hired, Brian Daboll immediately became the front runner for this job. And John Mara, who's been accused, the Mara family's been accused of being too involved in some of the Giants' decision making over the past several years as the Giants have struggled. John Mara has said that he would allow new GM Joe Schoen to run that search. That search brought Brian Daboll the head coaching job, which, as I said, Daboll was the front runner. So I think that John Mara finds it, I guess maybe the word is ironic or unsettling that he's in the middle of this lawsuit, when Brian Flores is a guy that John Mara, I believe, would have been very happy to have hired as the Giants head coach. A couple of other things that Mara addressed that I wanted to hit today. One involving Saquon Barkley. Mara said that the Giants are not actively trying to trade Saquon Barkley, but that if Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll decide in the end that they have an offer they want to move on, that moving on from Saquon Barkley is the right thing to do, that he will not stand in the way of that. I think that Mara would very much like for Saquon Barkley to remain with the Giants for the long term. I think he's been clear about that. I think that that he lived through, losing Odell Beckham, and I don't think he wants to see the Giants move on from Saquon Barkley. The reality of it is, though, that that there is a new regime in charge, that Mara is trying, at least it seems like he is trying, to allow the general manager and the head coach to make the decisions to shape this roster going forward. That is something that I see as a really good thing for the Giants, simply because I think that the fresh perspective, the not being tied emotionally to certain players, certain situations, will serve the Giants well here. I don't know what will happen with Barkley. I remain in favor of moving on from Saquon, simply because I don't know how the Giants pay him long-term, or why you would want to give a running back, a long-term second contract. And if you're not going to do that, to me, it makes sense to get something and to move on. We'll see what happens there. But interesting that Mara said that he will not stand in the way if that is the direction that Joe Schoen eventually decides to go. Third thing quickly to mention is that John Mara said that no decision has yet been made on Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. Personally, I cannot imagine that the Giants will pick up that option. I don't know why they would do that before Jones gets on the field for Brian Daboll, for new offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. I don't know why they would commit, more than $20 million in 2023 to Daniel Jones at this point. Not that I'm writing off the possibility that Jones will be the long-term answer at quarterback. I just don't see the Giants at this point picking up that fifth-year option and committing that money to Jones long-term. Final thing to mention is that Mara did basically admit that the Giants, because of their cap situation, will have to move on from cornerback James Bradberry. Pat Leonard of the Daily News reported on Monday morning that in addition to the Kansas City Chiefs, who we previously knew had interest in Bradberry, that his sources are telling him that the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts are also expressing some interest in Bradberry. There may be some other teams that eventually get involved in that, but that is actually good news for the Giants. It does appear that they're going to be able to move James Bradberry via trade and not simply have to release Bradberry, who is a very good player. You hate to release these guys and get nothing in return, especially, a good player like Bradberry. But the Giants simply don't really have a choice here but to move on from Bradberry. They need the more than $10 million in cap space that moving on from Bradberry would provide. They have other smaller moves they could make, perhaps with Darius Slayton, perhaps with Julian Love if they wanted to, a couple of other smaller cap moves they could make. But the biggest cap move they can make is to move on from James Bradberry. And it's one that is pretty much a necessity for them to do. All right, Giants fans, thank you as always for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.